Today, on this particular video, what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about how to solve an age-old problem. I'm going to give you 5 ways to communicate effectively with everyone that you know. That's true. Everyone that you know, different techniques that you can use to communicate with everyone you know. So what in the world are we talking about? Is it really possible, Raymond, to go ahead and communicate effectively with everyone that we know? Well, absolutely yes. What we have when we look at the DISC index, it is a behavioral profile. And everyone you know fits into one of the 4 profile behavioral types. This is not a personality type, but it is essentially a behavioral preference type. In other words, how do you prefer to behave? And it's natural. Anytime you're talking about how to behave, you're also talking about how to communicate. What is your preference for communication? Well, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into this. We've got 4 different portions of the DISC behavioral profile. There's the D, which stands for decisiveness. There's the I, which stands for interactive. There's the S, which is the stabilizer in all of us. And there is the C, which is the person who is cautious. They are the procedural type. Now, it's important to note that no matter who you are, everyone has all 4 of these components inside of them. However, even though everyone has all 4 of these components inside of them, you've got a little bit of D, a little bit of I, a little bit of S, and a little bit of C. The essence of the thing that you need to realize is that even though you've got all of these different portions inside of you, that there is one that you lean towards the most when it comes to your communication. Some people may have a 3-way tie or a 2-way tie, but nonetheless, there's still one that they prefer over the other and that they identify with. So that person needs to essentially go ahead and get themselves an assessment. You get your assessment, and when you have your assessment, you're able to find out exactly where you are on the spectrum. But let me go ahead and give you a cheat sheet, if that's okay. When you've got a cheat sheet, let's give you an analogy of how to realize and understand these particular different methods. And here's what we have. Essentially, the D is just like a pilot. The I is like a flight attendant. The S is considered to be like a grounds crew, and the C is an air traffic controller. Now, this is the most beautiful analogy ever. Here's why. Because just like a pilot, the D is always interested in getting results, in getting from point A to point B, in focusing and being about business and getting those results, solving those problems, just like a pilot. The I is just like a flight attendant. They want to make sure that the experience during the process is a good experience. They're the person who wants to make sure that not only are we having a good experience, but everyone feels good as well. And then there is the grounds crew, who I have personally dubbed the secret weapon to accomplishing anything great in any organization. Why do we say that? Because just like there is a grounds crew at the airport, you need an S on your team. You need an S. And in fact, most people in the world have S as a dominant color in their profile, or they have it mixed with some other color. Now, here's the catch. Why do I call them the secret weapon? I call them the secret weapon because just like the grounds crew, what does the grounds crew do? The grounds crew does everything. They fix the plane, design the plane, build the plane, clean the plane, refuel the plane, restock the plane, load the plane, get passengers on the plane. They guide the plane, they direct the plane. They do everything necessary in order to get this trip to work. And there are grounds crews that are even beyond your eyes' imagination. If you just think about what goes into making a trip possible for an individual. So the grounds crew is the secret weapon, and they're the ones who are quiet, but guess what? They're very essential. And then there is the air traffic controller. And just like an air traffic controller who guides and directs and leads the airplane and tells it which way to go, they're very systematic and methodical. Guess what? There's the C that is inside of all of us. Now, We have other videos that go into this in detail, but we want to highlight this because we want to explain that there are different ways of communicating with people who identify with one of these particular areas, right? And if you find somebody that identifies with more than one, guess what? We're going to share you those tips as well. So let's go ahead without further ado and let's look at the first one. The first one is 5 ways to communicate effectively with someone who is primarily AD. Now remember, we're not talking about someone who thinks they're only AD. We're talking about someone who has D as their primary identifier, what they identify with the most. Everybody has D in them, but there are some people who are considered way at the top end of the spectrum when it comes to the D. So what we have is we've got 5 ways of actually communicating with someone who is a D. And the first thing that you need to look at is you need to make sure that you are decisive. This is the individual who approaches problem solving and obtaining results. This is what it looks like on their profile. It's a red bar, and that red bar identifies their natural tendency, their natural talents towards problem solving and getting results, right? So you've got to be decisive when you're speaking with a D. But in being decisive, you need to make sure that you explain what with facts. What are we talking about? In other words, you need to know what your facts are. What are those facts? You need to make sure that you've done your homework when it comes to the background anytime you're communicating with a D. Questions may come up, and if someone who is a D, who is red, senses that you're uncertain, then I guarantee you this, you will be grilled on the facts. You want to make sure also that you focus on what the results are. Don't get caught up in all the little itty bitty details. Show that details actually help certain results to actually happen. Now, what are we saying? So if you're going to be communicating with someone who's a D, someone who is decisive and problem solving and results oriented, you need to make sure that when you're dealing with the details, you show them how the details will help that result to come forward. Why do we say that? Because remember, this person is all about results. You'll see a person like this who is usually a leader, a decision maker in a high place, in a high position. And they know that they've got to focus on the facts. Why? Because they want to get results. So make sure that you explain what with the actual facts. Then the second thing that you need to do is you need to make sure that you actually get to the point. A D doesn't want to waste time communicating. They want to get it done. They want to get to work. So make sure that you're clear, you're straightforward. Make sure that you start with the most important part of your message, and then you work your way backwards to some of the less important details. Make sure that you don't use words unnecessarily. That may sound crazy, and it may kind of sound obscure, but when you're communicating with a D, they want you to get to the point. So get to the point. Don't use a whole lot of extra unnecessary details when you're explaining something to them. Get right to the point. Get right to the heart of the issue. Make sure that you're determined and you're direct. And please, I beg of you, do not vacillate. In other words, make up your mind and stick to what it is that you have thought about ahead of time. And make sure that, guess what? Make sure you have facts to back it up. Use those facts. Go forward when you express your ideas, because guess what? The D doesn't like something that makes no sense. All right. So get to the point. Then you want to make sure, number 3, that you also hurry up. Hurry up. Know that speed to a D is synonymous with efficiency. D needs efficiency, right? So you've got to have speed in order to get efficiency. If you waste time talking or doing something, it means you're not efficient. Frederick Taylor would love to know that. But then guess what? You need to also speak and act quickly, say exactly what you want, and be sure, Lord have mercy, and make sure you're confident. D's have enough confidence, it's been said, to go around for all of us. But make sure that you stand sure by what it is you're talking about. And then also you want to make sure that you don't waste your words. Avoid your small talk. Why do we say that? You need to avoid your small talk because they're really just not interested. So when you talk to a D, don't ask a D how their weekend was or how's the family or what did you do this weekend. If you come to a D to talk, then go ahead and talk. You can get to all the details of family and fun and activities after you get to the point. But that's what a D wants. And then guess what? Another one that you need to keep in mind is you want to keep it short. In other words, and we've kind of hinted at this earlier, use as few words as possible. Avoid comments like, it's hard to say, oof, or it depends, not sure, or I really don't know what to say. That will not go well with the D. And then stick to the topic. Make sure you prepare and stick to the topic. Stay on task. Use creativity or new ideas only if it's going to move you forward. Do not get into creative things or brand new ideas that a D doesn't want that. Only unless it can help move you forward. And then make sure you speak your mind. Have your opinion. Make sure that your opinion is your own opinion and that you're not borrowing it from someone else. So this is keep it short. And then lastly, for the D, what we have is business is business. We said this earlier when we talked about the small facts. Stay focused and don't try to be friends. Be friends after the work is done. And trust me, a D will be glad that you did. So what did we talk about? We talked about explaining what with facts, get to the point, hurry up, keep it short, and make sure that you know and practice that business is business. My name is Raymond Johnson, and I have just told you 5 different ways to communicate effectively with someone who is a D. In our next video, we will be talking about 5 ways to communicate with an I. Make sure you go ahead and tune in. Once again, my name is Raymond Johnson. Take care.